Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the Mayor Heath Shearon and the host of this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pumped you're here hanging out with me today. I got my main man, Cameron LiButti, hanging out from BidView Marketing, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're watching this right now, you're seeing him hang out in the background there. But guys that are listening, can't wait for you to hear this conversation. This episode is sponsored by my good friends over at Smart Choice, the fastest growing agency network, hands down. Go to smartchoiceagents.com and check it out. They have lower premium thresholds, higher commissions. They do what they do because they love you. Go to smartchoiceagents.com. Ladies and gentlemen, tell them the mayor sent you. Also, my good friends at Canopy Connect. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath. Get your discount. Get a demo. Book it right there on that landing page, guys. They are your one-click solution to getting the deck pages you need to quote your prospects. They have an incredible dashboard that can white label it for you. I don't know what you're doing if you're not using them as part of your intake process. Guys, go to usecanopy.com/Heath. And also, lastly, but definitely not least, Mav. Go check out my friends at Mav. They are the AI-powered insurance expert that engages unlimited leads with friendly text to qualify, quote, and connect your prospects. Guys, ditch the call center. Use a texting platform. It's so much better. Guys, go to hiremav.com and check it out. They are incredible. I've had so many people already connecting with me saying they're so glad they checked it out. Alrighty, I'm going to slide it away now so you can check out this great conversation with my man, Cameron LiButti. Cameron, what's going on, my brother? How are you, man?
Good, Heath. Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. I am so glad that we're able to connect and have this fun conversation because I think we're going to get into some things. We may hit a few hot buttons. I think it's going to be a good time, man. With, a little fear of dating the podcast, but I just got to say, man, I just got through watching the Super Bowl, and I put a little post on LinkedIn about it. I was slightly disappointed. I miss the junk food and the beer commercials. I missed some of that. This time around, we had quite a few AI commercials. And some of them were cute and funny, but I don't know. I just felt a little forced. It felt a little awkward. What'd you think about that? I mean, I know you're a marketing guy. Did you think that the commercials were to par? What'd you feel about that as a marketing guy?
I thought the AI commercials were the best of them, but the bar was low.
Yeah.
The bar was low.
Yeah, for sure.
I think if we wonder where the economy is, it's AI, gambling, and prediction markets based on those commercials, right?
Yeah.
Which I guess we could argue prediction markets are also gambling.
Yeah.
So that was the state of it. It was the Claude or the Anthropic one was interesting. How they're positioning themselves against the ad model, which is
I just don't think they could do it without having ads. Like, I know they say that, but eventually they're going to have ads. I just have a feeling they're going to have an egg on their face.
The way that Anthropic makes money is different than OpenAI. OpenAI is more of a AI for everybody, but what you saw there was that Codex platform. We can talk about what that means, or what that is. But the Anthropic, the way they make money is more business to business. So that's the one the coders are using.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If we want to get into so yes, my day job is marketing, but I moonlight as an AI consultant unintentionally. Yeah. That happened last summer. I was speaking at one of my networking events, and any professional listening to this is like, oh, we get these guys hit my inbox every day with these marketing services. And I just was like, I'm not going to be that guy to our networking group. So I spoke on AI because it felt like I'll use the term, a safe space for a lot of lawyers. They're expected to know everything. And I know they don't know anything about AI. So I started talking about AI, and I now have become the go-to resource there for AI. But without going down the rabbit hole, and we absolutely can if you'd like to, but Claude, Anthropic's model is becoming more of that orchestration layer, which we can talk about what that means. But I think currently they have a good model for business to business, where OpenAI is they're not predicting them to be profitable until 2029. So they're going to have to run ads. There's no other way.
Yeah, I would agree. I just and also thought, even like the Svedka and vodka commercial with the robots and whatnot. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. There was
Yeah.
some cute ones, but again, I was just interested in like that shift. There was a lot more, and again, this Insurance Town podcast, but I was just interested just because I just watched it. There was a lot more ads on like health, weight loss, AI. It just seemed to be dominated with totally different. I don't know if they just had different ad salespeople or just that's where we're trending right now is people looking more at the healthier options, the weight loss with the hims and the hers and the this and that. And I just thought it was interesting to see because I don't know how old you are, but I grew up with the Doritos ads and the Bud Light frogs and the beer wars more than anything else. And now it seems like it's more of AI wars. I don't know. I think I counted like 8 different AI companies that were marketing at us during that. Not just your big boys, but there were some other ones. There's a new one that, let us finish all your spreadsheets and let us finish this and click here and it's all done and go home. And it's like, anyway, I don't want to go off too much of a rant, but
AI.com,
that
to me felt like the crypto.com.
Yeah.
That one just spun up like within the last month, I believe. That website crashed after the Super or during.
Oh, I believe it.
Because it was on they didn't up their bandwidth with somebody. It was just somebody with a lot of money spun that. They paid $70 million for AI.com, spun that up, and nobody can really tell you what it does. So that's fun.
Well, with like what was it, 136 million viewers at the Super Bowl, I mean, if you even get a small half a percentage of those, you're gonna, I don't know, I just think you're not prepared. You're not gonna get it. But anywho, all right, so before we get into too much deeper in there, just so the rest of the audience and my crew listening here, let's learn a little bit about Cameron before we get into what you do. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Why don't you start back as far as you want to, and then tell me, what brought you to where you are now, and how you came to do the marketing in BidView, and how you getting into the insurance, and all of those kind of things. Just hit me real quick.
So I'll give you the quick up to BidView start. So I was actually an engineer.
Oh, wow.
I was a mechanical engineer in Chicago, building mechanical systems for high rises out of college. That was my background, my degree. I am an entrepreneur, just kind of to my core. I didn't do well sitting at a desk all day in the consulting world. And in 2013, I just said, I'm going to go online and figure out how to make a business work. And that led me down the path of marketing. And I was marketing products, having a great old time. And then in 2019, I was talking to a doctor, and he made a comment to me. He's like, "Oh, you talk about marketing differently." And I laughed. I said, "Well, I have nothing to sell you." And he goes, "Well, can you help me?" And I said, "No, I'm not going back to consulting." And he said, "No, really, I'll pay you." And I was like, "I don't even know how much to charge you." And he said, "We'll figure it out." And we did. And I unintentionally, not or intentionally, but unintentionally launched BidView because of that. We tripled this. This was back in the good old days when just some Google business profile cleanup and website cleanup stuff could really do some serious lifting. And that's what we did. And he tripled his phone calls in the first 3 months, and it was kind of game over from there. We just doctor after doctor. Being that I used to be an engineer, I do much better with professionals. So insurance professionals, lawyers, I do obviously doctors and engineers, and we work with some private equity roll-ups now. Those personalities, my personality works well with them. We do work a little bit with home service, but again, I bring up my personality because if you're a plumber who doesn't like to answer your phone, or you don't have an office staff, we're not the team. I mean, I turn those people away more than we take them on. We do work with like a huge solar company, but I think they have 10 sales reps on staff. So it's a great fit for us. Makes sense. So that's how we got into digital marketing. Currently a team of 14. We do all things web dev, SEO, paid ads. We're getting much more into social media because of AI. We'll talk about that probably in a little while. So we have video editing services now. There's a gap in the market. It's either you film your content and figure out what to do, or you fly in, or you hire a local, videography team. And I think last time I checked, current prices are usually north of $10,000 or $12,000 just for that engagement. So we're trying to find a fit in the middle for our service professionals that I believe there is a nice fit. So we've been working on that. And then on the AI side, we are rebuilding BidView currently from the ground up. We want to, obviously we're a service-based business, but we believe that we are turning more into software-based business. Like we will have intellectual property as our marketing methodology that will be operated through some of the softwares that we're currently building. But to get access to those things, you'll work with our account managers and do some of those, do more of a traditional agency model powered by some of this data intelligence. So that's BidView, high level overview. I can dig into any of that if you'd like to hear more.
No, it's great. No, I appreciate that. And so, just for the audience to know, a little personal, married, kids, where are you from? Tell me some of that.
Married since 2013. I have 2 kids, 9 and 7. So
awesome.
I did watch the Super Bowl, but I was in a daze because we were ski racing up in Wisconsin all weekend. Yeah. So my older son is on the race team. People hear that around, like, you can race in the Midwest. And I believe there's a few Olympians right now that came out of the Midwest. People are always surprised by that. But yeah, we 2 boys that we're in it now, 9 and 7. So it's constant sports.
Oh yeah.
Football coach, baseball coach. I am not the ski coach. Thankfully, I don't. While I can ski, I am not qualified for that. So I just go ski on my own during that. But all the sports, all the time.
That's awesome.
We're in it. So yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And so, okay. So I took some notes there that I wanted to get into. Okay. So you work with professionals, insurance included. And again, since we're in insurance town, we'll focus a little bit there for the majority of the time, but really at a high level, when you're working with professionals, and you're doing your marketing, and I'm imagining most of the ones that come to you, they're looking to build their pipeline or their funnel or, grow, in that sort of way. And you're helping them with that organic outreach and the organic things of that nature. You brought up, so first of all, when you're starting with those professionals like that, just for those who are listening right now, what are some of the first 2 or 3 questions you're going to ask them to get you, just to help you to learn more about, what they do to help you to do some marketing for them?
Yeah, well, so I'll say it really bluntly here in this podcast. I'm a bit nicer in person about it, but what makes you special? So everybody in the professional service space, doctors are the worst at this, but everybody in the professional service space wants to be this. They want this Fortune 500 this positioning, this glazing, and I like to remind professionals that if you are a part of a community, what makes you special is that you are a part of that community, and that catches them off guard. But if we're competing with a national insurance broker, like, they have all of the authority. So your authority is going to exist in your local community. And so I try to remind all businesses. I mean, I even do this with personal injury attorneys, which they hate it the most. They're like, no, I'm the big and powerful. I'm like, you're not. You have a personal injury firm with 6 lawyers. Chill out.
Right.
What makes you special is you're part of the community. And that message is hard. I delivered that message to a group of doctors last year. And, they're one of the highest paid, they're ophthalmologists, so they're eye surgeons. And so one of the highest paid doctors. And I said, what makes you special? Well, they're listing off all their credentials. I'm like, no, you're part of people want to go to you because you're the best in Chicago, right? People aren't flying in from around the country. Like, it's great. But trying to remind people that what makes them special is usually that they're part of the community. So I actually, last year I did he hired me to come into his office, an insurance broker here in a suburb near me. And he had all these digital marketing. He wanted to be doing SEO, programmatic SEO, and he wanted all of this stuff. And I said, what makes you special is that you're part of this community. Like, when you don't even, a lot of insurance, not even insurance, but lawyers, insurance, doctors, they're so focused on the first, getting the first client, like get that lead, get them in. A lot of people forget that they have this huge, book of leads or contacts, and they've never spoken to them. and so we started talking. we came up with an idea. Let's just send them cookies. Like all these people that don't know. So he had a lot of his leads were doing home insurance through him. And I said, do they know you do a lot of business insurance? And he goes, probably not. Well, that's where your more lucrative business lies. Like he lives in a more wealthy town. I said, well, plenty of these people must own businesses, right? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. And so we came up with like a mailer idea to give away some cookies to a really popular local, right? So he's supporting a local business. They like that. And I think there's a lot of ideas around driving locally. And it's just a message I just find myself delivering over and over.
No, I think that's good.
Professionals.
One of the things I talk about on stage a lot, and even on this podcast, and people listening right now, they've heard me say it 1,000 times, but when I ask people the same thing, what's your value add? What makes you special? To your point.
Yep.
9 times out of 10 in insurance, they're going to tell me our customer service. And it's like, bro, everyone says customer service. I mean, like, what specifically about your customer service makes you special or is a value add? By just saying that, everyone says, oh, we treat our customers, no matter what the industry. I'm sure you hear it from lawyers, from doctors, from, realtors, from PE roll-ups, whatever it might be. You probably hear that everywhere. Oh, we treat, customers well. And I get that. And I use, a lot of times, examples like the Chick-fil-A or Amazon or whatever it might be. And be like, that's a different level of customer service. How are you doing that within your agency? And so, yeah, I would agree. I love the fact, because I'm a big local guy too. I love the fact you're like, what makes you special? You are involved locally there. You're in part of this local community, whatever it might be, whether it's Little Rock, Arkansas or Chicago or whatever.
Yep.
But then I think from there, I try to get people to define further. And I'd love to, hear from you on that. Like, how do you get them talking about further than just, we do great in customer service, or we treat people well, or we're the best doctor in Chicago? I mean, what makes you the best doctor in Chicago? What makes you the best insurance agent in Little Rock, Arkansas? What are you coaching them on that? Like, what are you talking to them about that? What do you hear a lot?
Well, usually it's a lot of blank stares to start. Start. And so, I don't actually say what makes you special, but what makes you different. And then I use the terminology positioning. So, right, marketing language, but what is your position in your market? Because if we look across all of the local insurance agencies around you, they're all going to say we have, like you just said, customer service. And so we start to get into, well, how are we going to visually and communicate this? And so everyone wants the 500 word paragraph text about their customer service or their history. And I always, kind of cut them off there. And I said, go hire the best photographer we can find, and let's show them what this looks like. Let's show them why your customer service is great. So we're going through this right now. One of our clients, he's one of the biggest real estate agents in Lake Tahoe, which you can imagine is a high net worth area. And a lot of parallels to the insurance world. But he said, I need you to get, video. I need you to get pictures. Like, what is this going to look like? We can't just tell people. We have to show them. People's attention span, I don't have the stats in front of me, but we know it's decreasing every year. So I huge proponent of showing, not telling. And so we can use all the flowery language we want, but let's build the imagery around that persona that you want to show people. And then that exists on all of your assets, whether that be social media or your website. We start to build that brand, that position before we ever even get into the more technical things. And then on top of that, and this gets into some of the AI stuff too, but the review building, let your customers tell the story of why you're special. Like what are your review building strategies? And I'll be the first one to say, in the I know it's an insurance podcast, but in the unsexy industries, how do you build reviews? What does that process look like? I'll tell your viewers the best, depending on how often you see clients and how frequently you're getting reviews. Manual outreach is by far the best way to go about it. I know a lot of businesses don't like it. They'd rather automate it away, but it's the most powerful thing you can be doing for your business. So actually, my friend, real estate agent, he came up with this method. He sends an email thanking them with the review link, and nobody leaves the review ever. And then a week later, he sends just, oh, somebody told me the link was broken. I just wanted to send it again. It's like 100% of the time somebody leaves that review. So if you're not a high, and when I say high volume, I'm like restaurants, right? Like that's high volume, which professional industries just aren't. That's not a high volume industry. Spending the time to take that little extra step to do those things, or send them a box of cookies. There's a doctor here, an audiologist. I sent a couple patients her way, and I got a box of cookies. Like, I will continue. I was always going to send her more patients because I believed in her, but now that now I'm like, oh, like I can't wait to send Lori more people because they raved about her. So those like little review building things, those stack up over time to make a huge difference. So this is all just positioning. And then one last piece I'll give you about the review side of things, because we mentioned AI. As AI grows, their data sources are getting a little bit bigger than just the traditional search engine. They're looking for a wider range of citations. It's going to become important to be building those reviews across a lot of different platforms. Right? Google Business Profile still most important, but I have a lawyer getting leads from Yelp, so reviews are important there. Facebook's becoming more important. Again, it seems like that changes every few years, but getting a wider range of what I will call citations in the form of reviews are becoming more important once again with AI.
Yeah, I wonder, you brought up SEO. You've said that a couple of times. Mm-hmm. I'm interested personally, and so the audience gets to deal with me, ask you a personal question. With ChatGPT, with Claude, with generative AI, whichever platform it is, Gemini, Google, Microsoft Copilot, whatever it might be, has that kind of disrupted or taken the place of a lot of people saying, I'm going to Google it real quick? Because I know for me personally, I don't necessarily go to Google anymore. I go to ChatGPT and I'll ask, like this morning, I kid you not, my son came, hey, our handle broke in our toilet. And he was like, I took a picture of it and I put it in ChatGPT, here's the parts we need. My son's 18. And so I was like, fix your own stuff, it breaks. And so he was like, all right, this is what ChatGPT told, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to pick up these things. Yeah. It told me how to fix it. I'll have it done. Don't worry about it, Dad. I know you have a busy day. So I'm like, even taught him that. And I do the same thing. I'll just go, I need to change my oil, take a picture, do this, whatever. So again, going back to SEO, search engine optimization, you talk about Google, you talk about, reviews, Google reviews. Is that still relevant? Are you still doing a lot of that for your clients, or is that been completely disrupted and we're going to see changes shifting more to, and we can transition to that later with more GEO, but start with SEO. How relevant is that still? And should my listeners still be spending a lot of time, money, and effort on SEO?
So yeah, well, let's have a little bit of like a history. Where did SEO come from? So I will be 40 this year, and you have an 18-year-old, so you definitely remember these days as well. Back when we were little kids at high school or middle school or elementary school, we had the card catalog in the library, right? And so that concept of indexing comes from the card catalog. And then in the 90s, Google famously figured out how to transition that system digitally, like how to go find data, right? They are data scientists that figure out how to find data at scale. And that was Google's main goal. And so up until 2015, they had, I can't remember the exact numbers of how the teams were broken up, but it was a little over 10,000 employees at Google were manually every day changing the weights of how you find information online. In 2016, they completely switched to what was referred to at the time as machine learning. And AI is just an evolution of machine learning. So we'll get there in a second. So we switched into about 2016 to this machine learning algorithm, and it's stayed there ever since. And so this is what is powering the search engine. This is what is powering Google Maps, is this machine learning algorithm, which is now referred to as AI. What has changed in the last 18 months is not necessarily the engine under the hood. It's the interface that the consumer is using. So we are now using ChatGPT, we're using Gemini, we're using Anthropic, Perplexity. That dashboard, if you will, the data retrieval portal feels different. So it feels like the engine has completely been rebuilt. It hasn't completely been rebuilt. There are some differences, and we can get into that. But from the back end, you are still optimizing, you're still organizing data at its core. And so you hear people call it AI SEO or GEO or whatever the name is, answer engine optimization. But at the core of it, you're still organizing data. So it's still my job, no matter who you are, is to organize that data. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We work with audiology practices once in a while. And in an audiology practice, their core customer is 60 plus. They are still going to Google search engine and they're still using Google Maps. I also work with a tax attorney. Tax attorney tends to see his customers tend to be, 35 to 50, and they didn't pay their taxes. They're all using ChatGPT because they're typing in, am I going to prison? Because they didn't pay their taxes. And ChatGPT is going, I don't know if you're going to prison. I'm not going to answer that question. Let me ask you a few questions. And then it's going, hey, you need to see a tax professional because you need a lawyer.
Right.
And so what it did, this is really cool. So we started working with this tax attorney in July. His traditional leads have increased somewhat, but the vast majority of his new business is coming through we were looking at it a couple of weeks ago. It's between a third to half of his new leads come through ChatGPT. So what has happened is the time that the lead, so what it used to happen, someone would Google, they'd think about it, they'd question it, do I need a text? ChatGPT is basically doing the warm up and the selling for him, and they are just delivered hot to his door. So they started typing, and within 30 minutes, it's going, you better call an attorney, and they're in his door. So that's the front layer that feels so different to the user. But the back end, we did all the things that we've always done, or at least we've done in the last 7 years. We optimized his website. We made sure he was getting reviews. We were doing those types of things that SEO's always done. Some of the different things now that you'll hear people doing is they're like prompt stuffing instead of keyword stuffing. And we can get into some of why the fan out queries get a little messy, but prompt stuffing, keyword stuffing, kind of the same side of the black hat coin, if you will. Instead of link farms, they're using citation farms, which that's all going to get burned out of the industry pretty quickly as the AIs get better at it. And then instead of using content mills, which is the blog posting factories, we have now the AI slop, which is the constant posting of videos. And I think, I don't know if you're going to ask me this question, but the follow-up question usually is, what should we be doing this year? A lot of my recommendations the last month have been, hey, we got to think about what video looks like this year, because that is a really good data source that's very hard to fake. You build a lot of credibility very quickly, and the AIs love it. So Google's AIs are pulling from YouTube. They're starting to pull from TikTok and Facebook videos and Instagram. So that's a good citation source that is really working well in the AEO or AI SEO, whatever we're going to call it. That's a little bit of a different data piece that historically hasn't been weighted so heavily on the traditional.
So in our industry, we've traditionally been known as kind of the pale mail and stale industry, kind of the old school. Things haven't changed. It's the way things have always been. So, and again, I could say that because I've been in this industry 22 years. So if I offended anybody, sorry, not sorry. But the way I wanted to know is, an agency listening to this right now in, middle of nowhere, America, and they're doing traditional SEO things, they're still going to be okay, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep.
They still focus on keywords. They still focus on reviews. They still focus on driving traffic to their website and doing those types of things. They're still going to see some great organic growth from that.
Yes, absolutely.
And that might even translate into some growth, and it might show up on some ChatGPT or some Gen AI searches as well.
Oh yeah, no, it's showing up there.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
I had my first, it was probably a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, an event reached out to me from a generative AI search. They said, looking for a speaker for an event in insurance or whatever, and my name popped up. I was like, that's really cool. I didn't know if I did anything to do that or to optimize the Gen AI searches, but it was cool. And I was able to book a gig from it. So I just wonder, again, if it's just, if there is any differences that people should focus on. And I'd love to get into that with you just a little bit.
Yeah. So what's muddying the waters are marketers like me using it as a positioning angle to say, hey, I do AI SEO and all these other marketing companies don't know what they're doing. And that's what's muddied a lot of the waters. But at the end of the day, if you are doing good traditional SEO, if you're not in a location that's just, I mean, a difficult location, you need to be doing all of you had to be doing some of the more advanced SEO strategies anyway. But like I just mentioned, the video stuff is working really well. A wider range of reviews. So where I used to say it's Google my business, or Google business profile, it's all the reviews should go there. Now you're probably going to want to think about Yelp. You're probably going to want to think about Facebook. Where are there other places around the web that you can get reviews that'll help? Do you have your YouTube account at least set up? Do you have your TikTok account set up? Do you have your link? Like, it's looking at a wider range of what I refer to as citations, which we were building that anyway. Like, if we competed in personal injury, we had to do all those things anyway. It's just now some of the industries that historically haven't had to compete across a wide range of platforms at least should be setting those things up. So those are the big differences. But like I said, with the tax attorney, we ran our playbook, because if you were always optimizing for the machine learning algorithms, this isn't all that different. Again, it's the layer on the front end. But one of the things I think we can get into more technical SEO stuff. One of the things that I, for whatever reason, continue to see in the SEO world is somebody will look at their, what keywords are they ranking for, and they'll make these like little tweaks to page after page. That never worked. Like, it kind of worked, but it never was really the strategy you should have been following. You should look at your entire industry. So in insurance, what are all of the insurance services that you provide? You should have a service page for every one of those. And then what are all of the articles that support that service? You should be writing those articles. Those should be on your website. If something new happened in 2026 that supports or changes something about that service, you should update that page and you should write an article about that change that occurred. That's structurally, architecturally good SEO. But going in like every month and be like, hey, we should change this header, we should change this
Right.
word, that never worked super well. So,
well, one of the things that I get a lot, in this podcast, even, and when I'm on the road, is, people ask me when I talk about social media marketing, or I talk about, digital marketing, it's like, how do I know if it's long form or short form video, long form or short form blogs, a longer, context or text on my website, or if I should do shorter text, because it switches, they feel like, or, just when I figure out the Facebook algorithm, it changes, or just when I figure out LinkedIn algorithm, it changes, just when I figure out TikTok, it changes. Yep. And with TikToks, I feel like they change daily. I feel like it's, one of those things with multiple personalities, but you never can. And so people ask me all the time, and I don't know the answers. I don't in that world every day. Mm-hmm. So as someone that has maybe a little bit more of a finger on the pulse in that, what would you say to someone? Maybe you can give me a little cheat sheet, later, that you can help me on the road when people ask me that, because I don't know the answer. Because for me, I feel like all the above, do short form, do long form, and A/B test it all. But you tell me.
Yeah. I'll give you a two-part answer. So the first part is to know, because of TikTok, social media has transitioned to what I refer to as interest graph. So as
Amen. TikTok, I've talked about that a lot.
You've talked about that a lot. All right. So your listeners are familiar.
No, keep going. No, I love it. Yeah. I love it. Okay. Keep going.
So if the TikTok asked the question, hey, I had a 30-year-old engaging with sports content, and then they had children, and now they're engaging with children, but they didn't change who they were following, right? But their interests have changed. So the graph, the algorithm, that's what that means. The algorithm changed based on like what they're pausing on and looking at. And so you can run this test yourself. Just jump into Instagram or TikTok and just pause on like animal videos and then scroll fast through everything else. And within 30 or 36 hours, your whole feed will just be animal videos, right? Like, you can test this for yourself. And TikTok does it that way. Even X has changed to more of an interest graph as well. But what drives great engagement over there is a little different. So the first thing I would say is know that it's an interest graph. And so you're not chasing followers anymore. You are chasing what people are interested in. So think about what your hooks are. X is going to respond differently than TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, where X is a little bit more outrage, and you can be a little bit more personal. If you look at any of the really engaging stuff on Instagram or TikTok, it's fast cuts, it's going quickly. Now, if you move over to YouTube, this depends on your personality. If you like to present and be detailed, and you're more like, I'm a very detailed oriented person. I want to get in the weeds. Like, this conversation is my favorite thing. Telling me I have to compress this into like a 30 or 60 second video is almost impossible for me.
Right.
So if you do go to YouTube, everyone's like, well, they have shorts. Should I be doing shorts? That's where, if you're going to use YouTube as an SEO strategy, you film horizontally and you write your post in, you write your description as if you're optimizing a blog article or a website. And SEO, AI exists. I would say, hey, I need to write an optimized description. I want to rank on YouTube for this keyword, insurance broker, Little Rock, Arkansas, and it will help you write that description, and it'll walk you through that. And those videos will rank inside a Google search engine. Those behave like better citations. You keep hearing me say that word. So on YouTube, that would be the main difference. In the other platforms, you can do more of the short form content. If you can use those long form videos, it depends if you have editors or how you do your editing, and cut all that up and post those on Shorts, on TikTok, and on Instagram. And those are more quick. People are going to watch them. They're going to scroll past them. It's more that, what's the word I'm looking for? The mindless scrolling type stuff.
Yeah, I tell people a lot when it comes to social media or digital, regardless of the platform. You tell me if I'm wrong, because I'll change my stance on this, but I've always said how important it is to engage. When people comment back. When people like back. When people do this, does that feed into GEO or SEO for that matter? Is that pulling? Or is that just more to help with the algorithm at SEO, with the Facebook or the social media platform of choice? LinkedIn, whatever.
Yeah, it'll feed into the social media platform for sure, the engagement.
But it doesn't do anything with the generative AI or the Google yet?
We'll see. It's hard to, I won't tell you definitively today.
Yeah.
Like you might get some people like, oh, absolutely. I haven't seen data to say that is the answer one way or the other. It's going to be more.
I've noticed, it's funny, like I'm different in this. Like my wife and a lot of my friends, they'll spend hours reading through comments on people's, like, one post, they'll read hours worth of, not hours, but 20 minutes versus that. And they'll laugh and be like, oh, did you see the comment on that? I'm not a comment reader, unless it's my own, and I'll engage. And then there's people like me, like, I'll just go through so fast through the content. But, I wonder, how important that is. Because again, I'll comment back on my stuff, but I don't ever go to like Cameron LiButti's post and look through his comments, or go through this funny post and read through the comments. I just find that fascinating. There's different people, and I'm sure there's people, if you're listening to this right now, comment and let me know. Are you one of those people that love comments, or are you one of those that, like, you could just scroll past the content as fast as possible? I got ADHD. I can't spend much time reading comments on one post. But anyhow, tell me your thoughts on that. I just said a lot.
If I'm looking at tactical, I'll call it tactical, technical videos, I will look at the comments and be like, what am I missing here? Where are some of the gaps in some of this person's presentation or thinking? I'll read. But if I'm looking at sports content, I'm not reading the comments. And that's where you see the most comments, people arguing about sports. Like, I don't have time. Like, I love sports, but I'm not in the comments arguing with somebody. So we know the comments affect the social media platforms for sure. Does it carry over into ranking? And I don't have data to say that it does or doesn't. So I'm not going to, you could ask me in 3 weeks or 4 weeks and be like, no, I've seen studies or I've seen the data that suggest that it does or doesn't. But here today, I can't tell you that it's going to affect your AI SEO at all.
I got you. Okay. So now that we're in this a little bit, I've waited off as long as I could, but I've been dying to get into this a little bit. I don't know what I call it. GEO. You've mentioned several different ways of looking at it, but I've had people, interested, and they've sent me comments of, hey, have somebody on to talk about this. So hopefully you'll be the guy. Tell me a little bit about, or the audience, broad level, and then we'll dive a little deeper in the last 10 minutes or so. of GEO, which what I mean by that is generative AI engine optimization, or whatever it might be, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, whatever it might be. Yep. Talk to me a little bit about that from a level, like, you don't even have to compare it to SEO if you want, unless that's part of the explanation. But like, how can an agent, a carrier, an underwriter, whoever listening to this show, what do they need to know about that? And if they've never heard of it, tell them a little bit.
So the first thing I will say, if you are and I'm going to relate to SEO because it's the language that a lot of people are often familiar with. If somebody tells you they can show you rankings in AI, SEO, GEO, answer, whatever we're going to call it, not SEO, but AI SEO, they cannot show you your rankings. And the reason they can't show you the rankings is because the AIs are getting better at learning who the user is. And so we'll get into some more technical things here in a second. But if the way I use SEO is very different than the way you use or SEO, the way I use AI is going to be different than you. So whether you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, a little less, but still, it's remembering things about you. So like all of my AIs know I own BidView Marketing. They know I do a lot of BidView Marketing search. They know I do a lot of research for clients inside of their location. So the way my responses are going to be is going to be different than yours. So the issue with tracking is that someone will say, oh, you're ranking in the top 3 in ChatGPT. No, you're ranking in the top 3 for their ChatGPT. So I had a client, a doctor actually in Manhattan last week, said, I Googled best, doctor, her specialty in Manhattan. And I was 5. And then she said, but then a patient came in and said, they found me at number 10. And I said, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. What is your position in the market? If a user wants that local touch and that local person, ChatGPT is going to start to figure that out. This is hard for the human mind to conceptualize. Yeah. And it's going to be like, when you say who's the best insurance agent, it's like, oh, they love, every time I give them answers, they pick you don't even know you're biased to it. And you're picking those, and AI is picking up on that. So an SEO agency or marketing agency is like, look, I've got you number 1. You're like, well, I just looked at myself and I'm not number 1, because it's almost impossible right now to pull that data and show a client where they actually rank. So this makes that very complicated on that side of things. The best metric is to track your leads. Like, where are they coming from? Are they increasing from ChatGPT? ChatGPT being the current one that most people use for finding businesses. I do believe Gemini is positioned to overtake them this year. We can talk about why that is. But are your leads increasing from AI resources? If it is, then the marketing company is doing a good job optimizing everything about you and your business. If it's not, then they're not doing a good job. But all the keyword metrics and the traffic metrics that come out of AEO or GEO aren't really all that useful. We are still using traditional SEO metrics to determine, are we moving in the right direction? So that'll be like my high level kind of soapbox on some of the how you track and think about this. We can dig in a little bit more, but that will be my first point to remember.
Okay. And then from there, if someone's listening to like, okay, I want to show up, in the ChatGPT. So I know, like you said, it's individualized, but are there things that they can be doing, that to show up a little bit better? Are there certain things that they could be doing right now, knowing that people are going more to Gen AI instead of Google or instead of Microsoft Outlook? I don't know what their search engine's called,
which is, I think, just a ChatGPT wrapper at this point. But you control your website. So I said this earlier when we were talking about SEO. Your website is your brand, right? That's your umbrella. And then write down every service you have. And those are now pages on your website. Have a good about page, have a good contact page. And then anything that supports any one of those services, make sure you write that article. That is what I refer to as site architecture. That is the easiest way for any machine to learn about you. And then, step 2 beyond that becomes, you've heard me say citations now. So citations will be your most important one's going to be your Google business listing. And then you're going to get into all of your social medias, Yelps. If you have an insurance, like lawyers have well, they have a ton of them, but I can't think of the famous one off the top of my head, but you have ZocDoc for doctors. You have, like, if you have an insurance specific niche one that you want, like, that's a citation you should be on. Again, it's 2026. I would jump into Google or AI and say, hey, what are insurance specific websites that I should be listed on as an insurance provider, and it'll show you where they are. Some will be paid, some won't be. As you get bigger, you'll want to think about the paid ones. As you're smaller or starting out, go for the free ones. And then the other one that everyone misses is, if you're in Little Rock, say, hey, what business directories exist in Little Rock? Get on those. These are the wider citations. These have always mattered, but the AIs seem to be leaning on these heavier because it's harder to gain multiple data sources than it is to just manipulate your website.
Yeah, I like that, and I think that's a good idea. And I wonder, with insurance agents listening right now, when you talk about a landing page for whatever the service might be, how granular should they be on that? If they, one for home and auto, or like a home, and an auto and a certificates of insurance and a commercial and general liability, like how granular, how many different landing pages should they do? Or is that a yes and all?
So if you work with us, it's yes and all. We are super granular. So what we do is, what is all of your services? And high level, obviously we have paid tools to do this, but the free way to do this is type it into Google and look at people also ask. And it's called fan out queries, but just click on one and it'll go from 3 to 5 to 5 to 7. You click on another one, write down all those questions. If they're related, really related to that topic, you should know as the insurance professional, that should be on that webpage. And so that's how you would write a web page out if you are doing it yourself. You start there, answer all the questions, and then again back to the positioning that we wrote in the beginning. Who are you, and what? Like, just not that what you just offer. Yeah. What makes you unique? Like, think through that as you write that content, and so that's how I would write those pages. Is use those fan out queries essentially inside of the search engine. Google is telling you what people also ask when they search that high level keyword. So that's what people want to know. And how do you answer that? That's up to you. I'll give you, so people all want to know how much things cost all the time. And so I have some clients that just tell people this is how much this costs. I have other clients like, no, they have to talk to me. So if someone says, how much does home insurance cost? You can just tell them what it costs, or you can say it's depending on these types of factors, and I have access to unique services, and you should really talk to me because we are often more competitive in the industry if we know your unique situation. You can use it as like a sales point of view for your business, or sales point for your business.
Yeah, man. Okay, we're coming up on time. I've got a couple more minutes. I want to hit you. I want you to, first of all, tell me in about a minute and a half or two, like anything else Gen AI related or AI related that you want to get, like a soapbox you might have, or anything you want the audience to know, as far as that goes, like whether it's optimization, whether it's how to use it, any advice you can give my audience in about a minute and a half of like what?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about optimization, but I think there's the other half of AI that we haven't talked about that has changed much more dramatically than the optimization piece in the last 4 to 8 weeks is what the AIs are capable of. So if you've spent any time on social media in the last month, you're seeing people generally using Claude Code. If you watch the Super Bowl, you saw the OpenAI Codex, but essentially these AIs are growing hands, is my analogy. You can build fantastic things in ways you couldn't do in November. And that's really hard for the human mind to understand. I'll give you a great example. I've had this business data intelligence concept. This is how BidView runs. We have a very unique way of looking at data for SEO. And I wanted to build this back in 2023. I priced it out. It's going to be about $100,000. Me and my senior developer last week started building it out. We had a working prototype in 8 hours, and it was just the cost of our subscription. Yep. So I am not a developer. Awesome. While I am technical and I do know my way around a computer, I am not. I want to make it very clear. I am not a developer. And so something that would have cost me that much then. And so access to doing things is compressing very quickly. And we're try to stay, it can be a little, anxious inducing, but that's AI is giving us powers, our normal business owners powers that we didn't have even in October of last year. So know that's the other half of what is happening in AI.
Wow. I appreciate that. Now, for the last couple of minutes, I want the audience to know more about BidView. Tell me, tell the audience in a minute or two, what are the services you offer? What are some of the things that you could connect with insurance agents on? And then, kind of give a little bit of a commercial there for yourself. I'll give you 90 seconds or so to give me that commercial.
Sure. So BidView Marketing was started by an engineer. I didn't know that was unique until I got into all of this, but I don't think about this from we do have creative directors and branding people now. I never thought about marketing from the angle of beauty, which sounds weird to say. I've always thought about it from the angle of performance. So when I was constructing a building, I couldn't put a new boiler plant in just because I felt like they needed one. I had to show them how much heat they needed. I had to calculate all that. And so when I got into this industry, I always had a hard time understanding the pricing models. So we're not a flat fee marketing agency. We use what I call our competitor gaps. So I look at what's the gap between you and your competition, and we price our services accordingly. I always tell people, like, if you are hiring us when it's time to be number one in your market, like I want to win, and I hope you do too, because that's usually why we show up. People have worked with a lot of marketing agencies in the past that are not performance-based or don't think about performance. I mean, it really does keep me up. I think about this constantly. What do we need to do? And so I just mentioned this in the AI stuff. We had spreadsheets and our data analytics was tight, but I wanted to go faster. Like I want to be predictive of what's occurring in somebody's marketing. So we are transitioning. While we are still a marketing company, we are thinking of ourselves as both a service and a SaaS, meaning we have our proprietary software that is doing daily competitor analysis to make sure we are not dropping the ball across the board. So the first iteration, like I said, is all focused on SEO. Iteration number 2 coming here in the next couple of weeks will be focused on ads. So where are the holes in the market? How can we adjust our ad budgets using some predictive analytics? And then that will lead us into more of the social media pieces. So that's BidView.
And how can they get in touch? How could they get in touch with you? Its website address, all those things.
Yep. So bidviewmarketing.com is our website. I finally got around to actually putting up our nice website after, we always do our own things last. But BidView Marketing, and that site's been up now for a month. BidView is BID as in dog, view, marketing.com. You can reach us there. You will go right to, we're not tiny anymore, but we're also not huge. You'll talk to me or my account manager, Erica. We are very hands-on. We're big into communicating. So you'll come right to
awesome.
Right to both of us.
Awesome. And they could find you on LinkedIn. They could email you.
Yep. Cameron.
And I'll put that in the show notes. Dude, I appreciate you. So much fun having this conversation. I could have not been recording a podcast and, just had a good time talking to you. So, man, again, I appreciate it. I'm glad that we got to connect on this. Thank you again so much, man.
Thank you. This was awesome.